Welcome to the Moviegoers Society podcast brought to you by Nerdtropolis. I'm your host, Sean Tajipour, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and joining me once again is my co-host, Drew Munhausen, the professional media and movie mastermind who finds himself in a vibrant animated world, it seems like, with a very cute goat.
Yeah, this is, I went and wished upon a star as it's the 100th anniversary of Disney with my goat friend Valentino, and I wished that I could be here doing this podcast with you. And look at that! Look, the wish was granted. Who could ask for more?
That wish did not go to waste, I will tell you that. But in this podcast, we dive into the world of cinema, exploring everything from beloved classics to the latest blockbusters. And we're on episode 20, Drew. This is super exciting. And we're going to be grabbing some good burger. We're going to visit our school pet, Leo. And then we're also going to make a wish at the end. So this is exciting. Episode 21st. How does it feel, episode 20?
Feels like I'm a dude. He's a dude, she's a dude, because we're all dudes. Yeah, is that
right? I love that. You got me excited already. But before we get into all that, Drew, we want to make sure that you can connect with us online. You can find me on every social media platform you can think of, as well as Nerdtropolis. You can find me at Sean Taj, and then you can find Nerdtropolis at Nerdtropolis on everything from X to Facebook to Instagram, anywhere, Pinterest too. Let me mention Pinterest and YouTube and all that good stuff. But also don't forget to visit nerdtropolis.com for your daily dose of movie news, reviews, interviews, and trailers. And Drew, where can they find you when you're not contributing to Nerdtropolis?
You can find me at Drew Munhausen on all the different social media platforms and over on Letterboxd, where I'm logging all the things that I'm watching from day to day. This week's been a particularly, or I should say this month has been a particularly busy month for movies. Which is great. It's just, man, it's tiring. There's a lot to go see. There's a lot we've been seeing, and which at least makes for no lack of things to talk about.
That was very true. We've been watching a lot of things. And also, don't forget to catch up on past episodes of the Moviegoers Society. Like I said, we're on episode 20. There is so much y'all can be tuning into, which is going to be great stuff. And also tune into my podcast, Nerdtropolis Mayor Presents, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the Nerdtropolis YouTube channel. I think the latest ones I have that y'all probably haven't checked out yet, hopefully you have. I got one for Good Burger too, speaking to the writers and directors. And the writers that I spoke to also were the kind of like the writers for All That. One of them was on the show All That as the older Kevin, the director, the producer that you can probably recognize him in the interview, and also the director as well. And then I also did one with Neil deGrasse Tyson, a little bit different subject matter there. But then I also did an interview with the Aqua Teen Hunger Force creators and the voices of a couple other characters too. One's the voice of Meatwad as well. And that awesome show that I love returns for a brand new season, starting as we are recording this right now. There is a new season ready for Aqua Teen Hunger Force, which is super exciting. Are you an Aqua Teen Hunger Force fan, Drew?
I am. I was back in the day. I actually remember seeing, I believe it was Aqua Teen Hunger Force : movie film for theaters. I saw in theaters back in the day. So yeah, I was a big fan. I haven't revisited it very much, but I have fond memories of it.
I do recommend the new season. It's only going to be a 5-episode season so far, and they're dropping 2 tonight. And watching the first 2 previously, I felt like I was watching like the OG episodes. So some good stuff, but the animation looks amazing. I will have to mention that. But that is a must-watch interview, I must say.
I have some friends that still regularly resort to doing the Carl voice from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, as well as Master Shake impressions. Like that is still a recurring bit amongst friends that I've had dating back to elementary school and junior high.
I'm a big fan of Aqua Teen, so definitely please check that out. But Drew, before we jump into like our trio of films, we're looking at the box office. One of the movies we want to talk about, because you also did a review on it, is this movie called Napoleon. Yeah, take us through this, because it's pretty awesome that this movie is doing pretty darn well.
Yeah, Napoleon, it's a historical epic drama from Ridley Scott. And he's no stranger to these, right? Like he did Gladiator back when, but he's also done like more recently you had The Last Duel that was a period piece. And now you have Joaquin Phoenix starring as Napoleon, which is it's kind of an interesting choice to put Napoleon front and center in an American movie, just because like I feel like the way, yes, Napoleon is considered one of the, just as far as his mind on the battlefield and everything, like he's considered strategically one of the best of all time. And so, but I also feel like he's typically portrayed as a villain, when in history and as we talk to him. So to put him front and center of a movie is an interesting choice. And it doesn't necessarily try to portray him as like an empathetic character. It also doesn't villainize him. It just shows who he may have been or what he probably was. He can be bumbling at times. And, but his strength on the battlefield was second to none. And it dives into a lot his relationship with Josephine, which if you're familiar at all with the history of Napoleon, I believe his dying words, amongst his dying words was the name Josephine, which was his first wife. And so it dives into that in the movie. And, it's interesting. It's a 2.5 hour long movie. It's a lot of movie. The action scenes are directed really well. It's Ridley Scott, right? The craft behind everything is really strong. And Joaquin Phoenix's performance is really good. It's a 2.5 hour historical drama. That's what it is. So if you go in and that's what you want to, digest, then it's here for you. I don't think it's my favorite movie to come from Ridley Scott in recent years. I thought it was a strong entry, but it's still solid. And the fact that it's doing as well as it is at the box office is, it's great. I didn't know what the hype was going to be for this or how well it was going to be. I had lower expectations, I'd say. And, it is an Apple movie. It's worth noting. We just had Killers of the Flower Moon last month. That was an Apple movie, and they partnered with Paramount to distribute that one. And, they partnered with Sony to distribute Napoleon in theaters. So, it'll be coming to Apple TV Plus in, a matter of weeks, most likely. But yeah, doing well in theaters. Not my favorite movie of the holiday season, but definitely, Ridley Scott is, if he's anything, he's consistent with skill and with solid entries. And this is another solid one, even if it's not my favorite.
With the box office numbers that we're seeing, that's really impressive for a movie that's going to land on Apple TV very soon, I believe, too, in coming weeks. Is Killers of Flower Moon already on Apple TV?
It's not. It has. I don't think they've even set a date yet, which is probably a strategic decision from them. They maybe wanted to see how it did in theaters throughout the holidays. I think it's still lingering in some theaters. So I would be surprised if it wasn't on Apple TV before Christmas, just because I could see a lot of people when they're, on vacation in the coming weeks, spending time watching it. I actually was with a family member at Thanksgiving, and we were talking about movies, and he said, he wanted to go see Killers of the Flower Moon in theaters, saw the runtime, said, nope, can't do it. And he's excited for it to come to Apple TV because he can watch it at home. But admittedly, he was like, I'll watch it probably over the course of like 3 different sittings. I get it. I loved that movie and watched it without even getting up to take a restroom break. So to each their own.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just looking at, the box office for Killers of the Flower Moon. It's been out for a little while, I guess, and it's sitting at 151 worldwide, but surprisingly, Napoleon is sitting at 78 million worldwide. It seems like this one is going to definitely leap ahead. It might be the runtime, it might be the subject matter, it could be a lot of things. 2 hours and 38 minutes is still pretty long, but it's definitely, I know, 3 hours and 26
still
minutes
an hour
long.
shorter.
Yeah, but that's really impressive, especially for both movies, but especially Napoleon, that the box office numbers are that strong for something that's coming to Apple TV. So I got a couple questions before we go into some other films. Did the lack of accents affect your viewing, or did you feel like it worked?
It didn't bother me. I've seen directors do this before, and Ridley Scott, I think, has done this before, where he doesn't even try to do accents. Like Joaquin Phoenix is definitely, in character in this. The accent is not a part of it. And there's part of me that's like, I think if Joaquin Phoenix, who's a movie star who we've seen in many different movies over the years, I almost think it'd be more distracting trying to see him do a French accent than just not doing it. And to me, it allowed him to put more into the character and the nuances. And so it I'm not necessarily one that hangs on to historical accuracies when watching movies, and that's one that I'm like, I'm fine. I very quickly was able to move past that he wasn't doing an accent here.
Okay.
Have you seen people that are complaining the opposite way?
No, I haven't seen much actually about it. But my follow-up question was, so like, is there a lot of action in this? And is the action pretty, is there any like gore to some of the scenes to it? Like, how is the action in the war depicted?
It's realistic, battlefield action sequences. I'd say it probably has more drama than it does action, but there are some decent action scenes. I'd say it's all portrayed realistic. I don't think it's overly gruesome necessarily, but there's definitely some gore and battle scenes.
Yeah, this movie was on my list. I forget why I couldn't go watch it. I had another conflict, but I'm gonna definitely watch this probably when it gets on Apple TV. Things are getting busy now, and it's hard to find another day to go to the movie theater as we're watching more movies and more coming out. So if you want to read the full review from Drew, you can visit nerdtropolis.com and you can catch that there. And all his other reviews are up there too. And we're gonna keep on going with tons of reviews coming up, I think, with the remainder of this month and December. So we're gonna finish off 2023 pretty darn strong. And I have a lot of stuff I got to catch up on myself. But this next film, I think we go visit Good Burger now and take a nostalgic trip to Nickelodeon land, I like to call it. Just saying Good Burger just makes me just happy. It's just like a very fun word title and a lot of nostalgia there, as Good Burger 2 is streaming on Paramount Plus. And hopefully everyone out there knows what Good Burger is. But if you don't, it started off as all that sketch back in the 90s that starred Kel Mitchell as Ed, one of the employees of Good Burger, home of the Good Burger, and he will take your order there. And they followed it up with a film that actually I loved as a kid for many reasons. You got Kenan and Kel in there, so you got Kenan Thompson as well. You got a really good cast. And then you had Sinbad in it. And I was a big fan of Sinbad growing up and still am. So I definitely love the first movie. Did you get a chance to rewatch it, Drew, by chance, the original?
I actually did. I did my homework. I revisited it, and I had a very similar history as you. You know, I saw it in theaters. The first Good Burger I saw in theaters back in 1997. I was a big All That fan, so I was a big Kenan and Kel fan. So I was all about this, and I definitely, once it came out, I rewatched it a lot on VHS. So I had seen it a lot, but I had not seen it in over 20 years naturally. So rewatching it was interesting. It's truly like a time capsule of late 90s culture. Like, it reeks of 90s, and it's such a like kind of flash in the pan for the moment of Nickelodeon TV and its popularity and just our age group. So it makes the fact that Good Burger 2 happened, 26 years later, pretty shocking that it really happened. And to your point, you said it earlier, like, I hope that people know what Good Burger is. And I don't know if they do. I feel like this movie was made for us and people our age who grew up with this to be able to revisit it in a Paramount Plus movie.
This movie was only made specifically for me. I'm going to say that. And I have proof of that in my interview. If the writer said they made it specifically for me, because I knew how enthusiastic I was about that. But yeah, I just want to make that funny point. But yeah, it is definitely for you and I and everyone that's like us that grew up with that. That's the reason they made it. It seems like, and hopefully they can get a new audience as well.
And like, I was kind of expecting, to be honest, I hate to be this way, but I loved Good Burger as a kid. I didn't know how it would hold up. I actually had a good time rewatching it. And I was just expecting Good Burger 2 to be like a massive dip in quality as like kind of a cheap grab for Paramount Plus. And I don't think it was. Like, it very much felt like a continuation of the first Good Burger, like kind of right in par. It's just now we're adults. And so the humor can come off as maybe a bit more dumb than it did when we were kids. But I mean, they're very much aligned. And it's kind of interesting how I guess it's less surprising that Kel can slip right back into being Ed in these movies. And but watching the two pretty much back to back, like Keenan's pretty on point with his character and continuing it on in this one too.
Keenan always seemed like the straight guy between the two of them, kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but like obviously Ed Kel Mitchell is kind of the clown, and then the leader is kind of always Keenan, it seems like, and Kel's running around. But to be honest, like Keenan really doesn't offer as much as Kel has always to me. Kel has always taken it to a whole nother level, which is great. I mean, I love like old school Keenan, and so it's nice to see him come back. But I felt like this was like the Kel show. It was awesome.
Well, yeah, and it's always been the story over the years, right? Because you had all that, and then Keenan and Kel, and it seemed like they were attached at the hip, and Kel was the funny one, and seemed like he would go on to more success, and he was in Mystery Men, and then like it kind of fizzled, and Keenan, who was the straight man, and maybe considered, I hate to say this, like to be the more boring of the two, which I don't think he's boring, but like when you can compare and contrast the two. But then Keenan has gone on to have this super long career in Saturday Night Live, and obviously has a lot of connections and has done a lot of movies. Trolls is currently in theaters, and Keenan's a voice in that, and he was in the second Trolls movie. Like Keenan's kind of all over the place. And so and then there was always kind of like, what's the drama between them? Like what happened between them? Are they still friends? Which I think was mostly kind of manufactured by fans and people who just didn't know what was going on. Obviously they're on good terms, and it's good to see them reunite for this movie. So it's like, there's a special place in my heart for this franchise and for all that, and for all that, super nostalgic. So to see it, on my screen again, I had a good time. And even some of the supporting characters that returned from the first one, it was fun to see.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I will say, like, I was slightly disappointed of, not the story per se, but how much they didn't really bring back from the original. I feel like they could have done a little bit more, maybe tied it in more to the original a little bit. But you mentioned this, like the humor was okay-ish, but every humor and joke that came from Kel himself as Ed was amazing. Like anything that involved Kel Mitchell, I loved. And the introduction of his family and an introduction of his son, Ed, too. Like, I actually like the actor. I forget his name, but the actor that plays his son, Ed, too, is amazing. And I even pitched this to the writers that we need a spin-off show called The Adventures of Ed and Ed 2. And I would definitely watch that. I feel like that would be actually a quality show to place on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, and another thing that's kind of interesting with the dynamic is, as I said, when I watched Good Burger, Keenan and Kel are very young in that movie. Like Keenan is playing a high school student in that movie who needs a summer job because he gets into a car accident. And there's a scene in the latter half of the first Good Burger where Keenan and Kel, Ed and Dexter meet Shaquille O'Neal. And at that point in the movie, it feels like a big deal. Like, oh man, Keenan and Kel are getting to meet Shaq. Like it felt like that was a big deal. Now, over 25 years later, there's a lot of cameos in this movie. And I think a lot of that could probably be attributed to long careers, and especially Keenan being on Saturday Night Live, and because a lot of Saturday Night Live cast members pop up throughout. But now, instead of it feeling like, oh, Keenan and Kel got to meet this celebrity, now it feels like all these celebrities get to hang out with Keenan and Kel. It's kind of interesting how like the tables have turned over the years and with their fame and kind of legacy. I think it's really cool. It's kind of heartwarming in a weird way.
No, it's great to see a lot of people return. You got Josh Server, you got Lori Beth Denberg from All That returning. I wish there were more, like they had a more prominent role maybe in it, but it was great to see them. Carmen Electra returns, which is no secret, and that's really fun to see her. And I wish she had more of a role. There's a lot of cameos, like a lot, just kind of like the first film, but I wish like some of them were served better and maybe more tied into the story per se. But joining Keenan and Kel is Little Rel, which I absolutely loved, and we got to give him an award a couple of years ago, and for Free Guy, which was awesome. And I love seeing him pop up anywhere. He's a very hardworking man. He's really funny, charismatic, and he kind of slips into any type of character that you need him for. He does a really good job, and it's kind of fun to see him kind of the bad guy. Spoiler maybe a little bit, but he's kind of the bad guy in this film. But it's the story is really well done, and I kind of like the plot line. What do you think about the plot?
I mean, it's kind of a recreation of the plot from the first one in a way.
For a good
It's
reason
like,
too, though. I mean, because it does tie in. I did like kind of the callback, and I felt like I didn't know really what the plot was, but I was like happy when that was it because I was like, that's a good callback to do. That makes a lot of sense.
it kind of was like a little bit of a stretch to figure out a way for Dexter, Keenan's character, who is like an entrepreneur who seems to, have a moderate amount of success in his career, to make him have a downfall big enough that he needed to go back to work at Good Burger. Like, it's a little bit of a stretch, but it's kind of to be expected for a Good Burger 2 movie. I'm not faulting the movie for that. It's like, do what you got to do to make Ed and Dexter come back together.
Yeah, there's a lot of Easter eggs that they sprinkle throughout. You got some fun songs brought back, and then you got the Burger Mobile, which was fun to see. I need one of those. That's like really cool to see. They actually had the Burger Mobile during the Thanksgiving Day parade, and Keenan and Kel were in it. And
I saw that.
Yeah, that's just really cool. So it's a really fun legacy sequel made for Paramount Plus. This was always made for Paramount Plus, and it's actually done pretty well. And I really wish, we get more of this stuff. We had iCarly return, and then that got canned. And I think we had a Zoe 102. I don't think I ever watched this 102. I remember watching the TV show, maybe a couple episodes. They brought that back, and I'm not hating on iCarly because I actually like iCarly, but like bring back Zoe 102. I think we gotta stretch back a little further and bring back maybe like all that again. They did bring it back, but then you do it again. Do more with Keenan and Kel. Bring back that show itself, because I did like the Keenan and Kel show and like the family dynamic, and then you got the little supermarket. I really loved all of that.
Isn't the Resurrection of Frasier also on Paramount Plus? They're really digging into.
They are, but like I tried watching Frasier. I tried watching Frasier. It's a little tough.
I've heard that from other sources as well. So yeah, I
because when you're introducing new characters, it's really hard. A lot of people have the same issue with the bringing back iCarly, but they did bring back a lot of older characters, and that was great to see. So it's really hard to make a legacy sequel for a TV show. Like, that's really the hard part. Movies are doing it, and so TV shows are trying to do the same thing, and it's sometimes hit or miss. But this was a nice little Thanksgiving gem, to watch, and it's definitely appropriate for all ages. A lot of fun if you grew up in the 90s like we did, and I loved it. I mean, I just wish it was a little bit more Ed and maybe more craziness. Boy, you guys, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm glad that it exists. I think it's kind of a weird thing. Like, I don't know if it's going to lead Gen Z, who has like, when they're skipping through their different streaming platforms, like, I don't know if they're going to say, oh, Good Burger 2, let me go back and watch this first one from before I was born. Like, I don't know if it's going to do that. And you're going to like, ignite new Good Burger fans. But that being said, I'm glad that it exists for us, for us to revisit and see these guys again. So it's definitely, like I said, an interesting time capsule that I'm glad's been reopened in 2023.
Yeah, and a quick note too, they remade Snow Day as well. I don't know if I recall watching it when they released on Paramount Plus, but they did do a new movie of Snow Day. I think they did more of a musical, and it has the brother from iCarly in there, and his name is forgetful for me right now in my head, but they did that. So I might try to rewatch that, next month in December, and kind of see how that one does, because I did like the original Snow Day as well. So, Paramount, Nickelodeon, all of them are doing some fun stuff. Hopefully they can, pick up some steam and provide more stuff like that. These legacy sequels and maybe remakes. But I'm always down to watching Paramount Plus. They have a lot of Nickelodeon on there, and so I'm always watching that. So now I think we visit something really fun. I think this is a very nice Netflix gem, Drew. It's a movie called Leo from Adam Sandler along with Bill Burr. And I wasn't sure what I was getting into with this film. I really didn't see many trailers, but everything we covered and everything like that, I was like, this could be hit or miss. This is very interesting to do an animated Netflix film and then have Bill Burr and Adam Sandler in the lead. And, the plot could have been something bad, but this is a delightful animated adventure with tons of humor and heartwarming moments. I remember you asked me about this, I think before you watched it with with your family, I told you it has a lot of great lessons in it, and I was surprised if that's what got delivered. Like a movie the whole family can watch, and you can learn something from this. Uh, Sandler invites his whole family to partake in this film, which is awesome. And some other people are also in this film. And it's just about a class pet that's what close to the age of 75. And they're like, that's his last year to live. And he wants to embark on some journeys. And there's a lot. Like the plot's not that simple to really explain. There's a lot to it, a lot of subplots. There's a lot of other characters, students, teachers, parents. Like there's so much in this movie, and you're gonna find something that you like. You're gonna find a character you relate to, and that's the beauty of this film that's actually now streaming on Netflix. I wish this got a theatrical release. This is something that I think needs to reach more people, and I think it would play really nice in theaters. But it's about a lizard that really knows his stuff. That's all I'm gonna say on that one. and I hope if this lizard was real, he'd be helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah. So I liked Leo a lot, actually. Of the two animated movies that we're going to be talking about here, not to spoil my thoughts on the one that follows this, but I thought this one was a little bit better. So I'll say that. But I thought Leo was fun. I think that the animation itself is like nothing really to brag about. I don't think it's anything that special, but it doesn't really matter. It's more about Adam Sandler as an old lizard giving advice to kids, and that's an enjoyable thing. There were parts of this movie that played out like a horror film for me, just in the sense of all these 10 or 11-year-olds that have cell phones and text each other and everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is horrifying. But that's that's neither here nor there. No, I thought this was really fun, and I do appreciate animated movies that don't try to explain too much. Because I don't think it's a huge spoiler, because like this happens pretty early in the movie, and then it becomes like a plot driver. Like Leo the lizard can talk to the kids, and they can hear him and understand him, and it's like, it's not like it's this crazy thing that it requires explanation. It's just that's what he can do, and he's just always chosen not to until now. And it's kind of a fun little spin. And then his relationship with the kids is nice, as he's trying to make a difference before he reaches the end of his life. And Adam Sandler's doing like a typical Adam Sandler voice, but it's likable. It's fun.
It's pretty different.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's like really early Adam Sandler. He tries to mask it a little bit. It's kind of different, to be honest. I thought it's pretty different to what he does. Like compared to everything he has done, he has tried as much as he can to be a little more different. I guess maybe a little bit more deeper with it too. But it's still Adam Sandler, so he's got to sound like Adam Sandler. You got Bill Burr, sounds like Bill Burr, which is great. And all the other voice actors in there are fantastic. And I love the antics. I love the humor. A lot of people did not like the music in there, but I actually did like some of the song and dance that was offered to us. I thought it was pretty unique. And
I thought the songs were fun, and they never overstay their welcome, and they're usually pretty funny. I thought the songs were good.
Yeah, because they're definitely different, and they got a little Sandler-esque style to them. And it's a really it's a really heartwarming film. Like that's really what it is. And there might be a little bit of inappropriate stuff in there, but I think it's really aimed at the adults that pick it up. It's not really where the kids can really notice it. But I loved it, and that's on Netflix. Like that's pretty good for Netflix original, especially when Adam has his big contract with Netflix, and some of his movies have not been that great. This is one of his best ones.
Yeah, it's a Happy Madison production. It's worth noting that a lot of the, his family is in this, as they've been in a lot of them. Like his wife Jackie Sandler and his daughters Sadie and Sonny, who actually they starred in the You're So Not Invited to My Bar Mitzvah, just a couple of months ago, which is another one that I thought was really strong. That was a movie I really liked, and so so he's got his family here, which like I guess you could say is like a little bit of nepotism, but I think that the girls are really good and
it's on purpose though. It's just,
enjoyable.
this is why he's doing this stuff. He wants, if they want to do it, this is his way of letting them do it. And it's his production company. He can do whatever he wants. It's different, you go to a studio and be like, this is what, I want my kids in it, but it's within his own company, which is great, and they want to be involved. So. And they're good at it, and they're great. And they're great in it, actually. The movie they were in and then the voice acting in this, they're fantastic.
Adam Sandler's pretty transparent about like he just wants to have a good time with his family members and his friends, and then he's going to do movies like Leo and like Murder Mystery too, but then every now and then he's going to throw us an Uncut Gems or a Hustle and show that he's, still really talented. I love Adam Sandler. I'm a huge fan of his. I watch every one of his, Netflix outings, and if he has theatrical releases, I go see those too. So no, I love him, and I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I'm the same way with Sandler, and I got to see him when he came to town with his big like kind of comedy music tour, which is really awesome. But I have to mention the writer of this film is Robert Smigel. That people don't know the name, but he is Triumph the Insult Comic Dog. He's a brilliant comedian and puppeteer and everything else. I mean, he is a big talent. So he's one of the driving forces behind the story in this film, and which is great. And so that's why maybe some of the jokes maybe go towards the adults, because it is Triumph the Insult Comic Dog is the one that's behind this film, which is actually hilarious. I'm surprised he hasn't.
That's funny. That's a cool Easter egg.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. And actually, I got to ask them a question during the global press conference, and they answered it. But I don't know if I'm waiting for that video to come out to get to me. So hopefully I can share it. If not, it is what it is. But yeah, Leo is on Netflix. Great film for the whole family. And there is another one I think that's really great for the whole family, and that's what Drew has behind him, is this Disney film, Wish, which is I didn't know what I was getting into. I can't watch all this animated stuff, and especially Disney. Disney can be hit or miss with me. I prefer Pixar over Disney. And I was actually really surprised of what they were doing with this. And then as the film unfolded in front of me, I was like, okay, one, it's the Disney 100. The star that you make a wish on is the wish upon a star. So like really diving into like the company's lore, I guess you can call it, or something like that, what the company's built upon. And they created something really cute and just fun with a very powerful message too. I really loved it. I watched it, I think, it wasn't an IMAX screen, but like the Dolby theaters, and I thought it looked great on screen. That animation that you see behind Drew, I like it a lot. I don't like some of the new stuff people are trying to pull off. I like this kind of classic vibe, and kind of I don't know how do you explain the animation style of this film, because it's very unique, but yet it's very classic.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a good point. It's hard to explain. First off, we talked about this a lot, I feel like, back in our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem episode, where now it seems like if you're an animated feature and you're not doing some sort of new or innovative animation, it's like, what are you even doing here? Because you've got these movies like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse that look just incredible. Wish takes kind of an interesting step with their animation, because it almost looks like a matte painting in a way.
What it looks like? Yeah, it looks like an old, like classical, like Disney book you would think of, or like an old fairy tale book, and on like the old paper, and it just somehow comes to life, and it kind of drops off the page, and this is what you get with some like watercolors-esque or some type of interesting colors and palettes. And yeah, it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but that's the best way I can explain it. It's just off the pages of a classic fairy tale book. And
I think that's what they're going for, because this movie, similar to a lot of the classic Disney animation movies like Cinderella or Snow White, that the movie actually opens with a storybook that opens with the words on the page and then transitions into the animation. This movie does that as a callback. And it's no coincidence that this is releasing in the 100th anniversary of Disney. There's a lot of just callbacks to older Disney films in this, like a lot of Easter eggs and references.
Oh, there's tons, and even cameos of a maybe one or two other actual big time characters that pop up. It's kind of funny.
And I'd seen some takes on social media before seeing this that it was pandering or that it was over the top. And I didn't really think that it was myself when I saw it. Like, it's kind of fun to point them out, but never is it like beating you over the head with it, except for maybe a couple. But even still, it's just like, just fun little nods. Yeah, I'm with you. I thought this movie is very sweet. Just judging by who I follow on Letterboxd and like the general film community, it seems like they're ready to like rip this movie a new one, and I'm not really sure why. I don't think it's deserving of that. I think it's totally serviceable, and it's like a nice, enjoyable Disney princess movie. The songs are decent. The main theme of it, I think, like slaps. I think it's actually really good, and there's a few good songs in this. So I don't really understand what people have out for this movie personally. Is it the most original and fantastic Disney animated movie ever? No, like it's a Disney princess movie and not really anything more other than a tribute to kind of the history of Disney. That during the credits, it shows like Disney characters from throughout the years.
So you stayed through the credits.
Stars.
We stayed through the credits too, just to see all the kind of fun little things that were giving us for that. Yeah, this is a celebration of Disney 100 and great voice cast. You got Ariana DeBose in it, and you got Captain Kirk. Chris Pine.
Chris Pine. Yeah, my favorite of the Chris's.
I always call him Captain Kirk first, and then his name comes to me. That's how I know him. But yeah, Chris Pine's in this, and I didn't know he could sing. Apparently, he has an album out. Like, he has done albums before, and he can sing. And I was actually very impressed by his singing in this. His character is great. Everyone's character is great. The supporting characters that you meet are really fantastic. The plot's a lot of fun. I think it moves very quickly too to get to where you want to get into the big kind of action scenes and kind of everyone having to deal with something big that's happening. I didn't think it took too long to kind of get into it, which I really liked. I thought the pacing was actually pretty decent for what was put in front of us. We talked about Valentino, the goat behind you. That's
voiced by Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, and I love him so much, but that voice threw me off. It's such a cute goat and have such a voice like that. I'm not going to ruin it for anyone what type of voice it is, but I was expecting a different type of voice to come out of him. That for me was a little off-putting. I kind of wish I had a different type of voice for that cute little guy. But it's funny too, because the jokes they wrote for him for the goat, it does work with that voice. That's for sure. But
I liked it. Yeah, I liked his voice. And Alan Tudyk has become a Disney animation staple. Ever since 2012, he was King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph. And since then, he's been in Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Big Hero 6, Zootopia, Moana, Frozen 2, Encanto. Like, he's in all of these, sometimes as funny characters, like or barely even characters. Like in Moana, he's Hey, the silly chicken that's with Moana on.
That's right. That makes sense of why he's Valentino the Goat. I must say, he is the voice of the new Optimus Prime in one of the Paramount Plus series.
Interesting.
He does the voice for Optimus now, for that show at least. So he's definitely a voice talent. And so Valentino's really fun in this. Everyone's loving Valentino in this. I think he steals the whole movie pretty much. And I could see him kind of getting like a spin-off series or shorts coming to Disney Plus. Like, Disney does a good job putting a character in there that kids are going to love, and so are adults. And adults won't get tired of their kids watching this type of character. And Valentino's one of them. And there's no way they're going to get rid of him. He's got to pop up somewhere.
And the other thing with just Wish in general and the response to it is, like, again, I saw this one with my daughter in theaters, and she really enjoyed it. And so for me, as a parent who loves movies and loves going to the movies, like, there's always something of value to me in a movie that at this point that my daughter enjoys. Like, that's always going to be a special thing for me. So again, like the kind of the vitriol and the way that people have it out for this movie, I find to be really strange, when I think it's like, it's enjoyable to me.
No, I feel the same. Like, certain movies, you just got to enjoy for what it is. If you're going to go and nitpick something just because you feel like that's your job to go find something, like, you got to dive really deep. We like doing this because we want to make sure people know the films that are out there are at least entertaining and worth your money. And, that's what we're trying to do, is entertain and inform all here. And just like the movies we want to watch. make sure they're entertaining and, they're of quality and you're getting what you're paying for. Cause it's not cheap these days to go to movie theater, especially if you're a family of four going to watch a movie and you need snacks and everything, or maybe you're date night and you got to pay for a babysitter. So it's not cheap these days to go to the movie. But there is a lot of good stuff out there. And I felt like the ones we covered, the 3+, the one Drew, Napoleon, Good Burger 2, that you could watch that at home, and Leo you watch at home, and then Wish you watch in theaters. So Napoleon, Wish in theaters, and then you can watch Good Burger 2 on Paramount Plus and Leo on Netflix. I have a good diverse group of films, even though two of them are animated. I feel like Leo and Wish are completely different types of films.
But we cannot leave the conversation on Wish without talking a little bit about the box office, because this is kind of insane. First off, worth noting, Thanksgiving weekend for Disney, pretty reliable weekend. Frozen and Frozen 2 both released over Thanksgiving weekend, both made over $1 billion. Like Frozen 2, naturally, it's a sequel, but the fact that the first Frozen made that. So I don't know, Disney releasing a new Disney animation, Disney princess movie on Thanksgiving weekend seems like it should be a sure bet to be number one at the box office. And the fact that this movie is actually struggling at the box office is kind of blowing my mind. Sean, you shocked me beforehand when we were, catching up before doing the show. I had seen that the Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, was pulling ahead in the weekend, and that it was probably going to come in at number one. And I thought that would be over Wish, and that Wish would be at number two. But the fact that Wish has come in at number three and Napoleon did better, it's like less than $1 million, but still better than Wish, is absolutely shocking to me. That like an R-rated historical 2.5 hour movie epic is doing better than like a more classical Disney princess movie that is good for the whole family. And we've had this conversation so many times, I feel like, about Disney and theatrical response, and how these movies used to be able to like just seemed guaranteed to make $1 billion, and now they're struggling. I don't know what the answer is. Like, I don't know if it's that people are waiting for Disney Plus. I really don't know.
That's one of them. That's one of the reasons. And then, the Hunger Games is not for kids, but teens can watch it and preteens can watch that. So you got that movie, you got Wish, you got Trolls band together, and you just had the Marvels.
But even domestically, like looking domestically, the Hunger Games has $98 million. The Marvels has $76 million. So the Hunger Games prequels made almost $20 million more domestically than a new MCU entry, which I find to be shocking as well.
So I think what you're seeing here is, one, a lot of these movies will be to streaming much quickly than the other. Hunger Games, based on a very popular book. So if you put that with Harry Potter or something, I'm sure Harry Potter would be killing it as well. So it's like that type of style of film of that much, popularity. So that's definitely killing it. You got Wish, Trolls band together. They'll end up on Peacock very soon, or is already on Peacock. Who knows how quickly that drops. The Marvels for many reasons, but they'll end up on Disney Plus. So you have that issue too. A lot of these are be dropped on streamers pretty soon during the holidays or right after, the new year. So people aren't rushing. They're maybe seeing things they can't. First of all, no one has Apple TV Plus, so not much people are going to be watching Napoleon. Apple TV is really struggling. And I tell people, if you want a reason to watch Apple TV, Monarch Legacy of Monsters is a pretty good series. It's worth trying out Apple TV just for that series, and then see if you like it.
Still, just the fact that the Marvels, which is, even though it's not in the name, it's a sequel to Captain Marvel, a movie that made over $1 billion worldwide at the box office, and that its sequel, The Marvels, is going to barely limp to $100 million domestic, I don't understand. And I'm sure there are analysts who know much more than me that could give like a really thorough and well thought out explanation as to why this is the case and what audiences are expecting. But yeah, Disney's finding themselves in a little bit of a hole here with their movies underperforming, and I'm not really sure what the solution is. And
they're not alone either. They're not going to be alone either. With Aquaman coming out, there's projections that it's lower than the Marvels. And
Oh, yikes.
yeah.
DC's kind of done that to themselves, though, to be honest with you.
And so has Disney and Marvel. There's a lot going on. And on Five Nights at Freddy's, which had a very strong start, did dip substantially the following week and after that. So like it had a strong, big time plop into the theaters, but after that, it just died down. So we mentioned this before. I think there's just way too many movies coming out week after week after week. There's no breathing room. People are picking and choosing what they want to see. You can't trick people into watching what they don't want to see. But Drew, I would have thought a movie called Thanksgiving would have the biggest box office opening ever on Thanksgiving weekend. But what does it say for Thanksgiving for domestic? I think it's at 24 million. What is it at worldwide?
Let's see.
$29 million globally for Thanksgiving, which is actually really good, guys. We're not dogging it. It's actually a really fun slasher film. But just making a joke that a movie called Thanksgiving should have been number one over Thanksgiving weekend.
A movie that I thoroughly enjoyed.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun. And
luckily, its budget was only 15 million, so it's doing just fine.
It's already a success. Oh, I mean, that's a success. Like this movie got made is actually just impressive itself. That's very cool. And you know, I'm gonna say this with Scream having issues. Maybe it's just time to have a sequel of Thanksgiving and forget the Scream franchise, because I thought this Thanksgiving movie introduced something really fun and pretty similar at the same time. So I think we just move on from the Scream franchise and move on to Thanksgiving, Eli Roth. So that's
I agree.
Yeah, a lot of movies. And then, you know, there's a lot more coming out, Drew. I mean, I feel like we're going to have to figure out how we can squeeze in this last batch. I mean, there's only like 1 month left of the year. A lot more movies coming out too. And maybe we can talk about some classics at the same time. Maybe we do a holiday session. I think we should do maybe find our favorite, maybe even make a list and have fun with it and our favorite holiday films and see if we have any of the same ones on our list. Kind of keep it a secret until then. I think that's
a good idea. And luckily, like you said, it's like with the onslaught of things we've had, I think what's coming out next weekend, Silent Night comes out next weekend, which I'll probably try and go see. And then I think Dream Scenario gets wide released. So I could finally talk about that because I did see that one.
They sent me a screener for that one. So I'm actually going to try to watch that. So we could probably talk about that next week. Watching the press conference for Dream Scenario, not a press conference. It was literally Nicolas Cage in his home talking to us for the Critics' Choice. And that was kind of fun to have questions asked to him and him answering them. And being inside Nicolas Cage's head is a dream scenario itself. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty wild just watching him kind of go through the process of everything. And I haven't seen the movie yet, but after watching him during this chat, I was like, this seems like a really wild movie. I didn't know much about it. And so I think, I'm excited to talk about it once I watch it.
I don't want to spoil, but I'm really excited to talk about it. That's all I'll say. I'm excited for you to see it. I have a feeling you're probably not going to be as high on it as I was, but
well, I know the concept and the story a little bit, and just hearing that, it's pretty brilliant. He mentioned that he was not originally the pick, and so I'm very curious of like who was the choices before they landed him. But at the end of the day, I think they landed the right guy. It seems like Cage fits this mold very well. So we just have to see what we both think about it. I know what you thought, but hopefully I like it.
Absolutely.
And then after that, what do you think we'd be covering? I mean, we got
I'm seeing a few things this week. Like I'm getting to see the Iron Claw, the Von Erichs wrestling movie, and LC Zone of Interest. So there's some things that can kind of be sprinkled in over the next couple weeks.
Yeah. So for next month, it looks like, obviously Ferrari is coming out, which I would like to see when we can. Oh, The Boy and the Heron is also coming out. I did end up watching that via screener. I might have to rewatch it. They sent me a subbed version, and sometimes it's very hard to get into it because the voice cast for the dub version is amazing. By the way, you can see all that stuff on nerdtropolis.com. There's also Godzilla -1, which I hear really great things about too. So you have that. Are you? And you said you were maybe watching May December?
Yes, I'm definitely going to watch that on the 1st. So I'm excited for that one.
Yeah. So we have a lot of stuff. It's wild. There's a lot of things to talk about very soon as the holidays are coming up. Oh, I'm going to say this before we wrap things up here. Merry Little Batman, I need to watch. I think they sent me a screener for this, but it's an animated Batman film on Prime Video. It's looks like a holiday delight. So definitely we'll be talking about that one very soon as well. So it's time to get into the holiday festivities. Is your tree up already, Drew?
Oh yeah, it's been up for a little over a week now.
Likewise, I put mine up, and I might have to share some pictures of my tree with all my nerdy ornaments. Some fun stuff on there. But if you haven't yet, check out the previous episodes of the Moviegoers Society. Make sure you check out my podcast, Nerdtropolis Mayor Presents, where I interview directors, actors, writers, anyone from Hollywood that wants to talk to me, all on the Nerdtropolis Podcast Network. And once again, Drew, where can they find you?
You can find me at Drew Munhausen on all the different social media platforms, weekly over at Fresh Out the Podcast. Give me a follow over on Letterboxd.
Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Moviegoers Society. Once again, I'm Sean Tajipour, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and we will see you at the movies.